Welcome everyone. Under the process of training, we just discussed about how the competencies has to be mapped, within which we discussed in the last lecture related to how skill matrix being prepared for the team. So the skill matrix for the team is consisting of these dimensions which we have discussed, as this is one of the example being available. The four values being given: 1, 2, 3, 4. The lower level of skills where the person can understand, where the person requires support, where the person can do the operations of his own, and in that particular case we have just given them all the points and identified whatever lacunas is available. For that we need to provide them training for enhancing their skill set level. So this is related to these points which we have allocated 4, 3, 2, 1 are being related to their average scores for the team. So there is the need of training need identification for the individuals too. For that, we can just take an example of this another skill matrix. Now, this is skill matrix is commonly said multi-skilling. Now, multi-skilling chart, it is being said. When we look forward for this, you can simply identify that there is a skill matrix, a skill set of A, B, C, D is available, within which we have identified that what is the within the skill set we have got multiple other factors or multiple other dimensions to be covered. So taking into discipline, communication, body language, time management, your learning attitude, adaptability, and teamwork. These are being the dimensions within which we have given scores to the people. These are the circles which is being covered. So that provides their status of competencies at present. So on the basis of the lacuna, which is the white portion being available, that has to be provided to the individual. The remaining portion need to be provided. These dimensions need to be enhanced for those individuals. So when we look forward for every skills which are required for performing any kind of job related assigned duties and responsibilities, within which we come across with all these dimensions to be covered, and these dimensions are giving certain level of competencies to them. So you can simply identify there are certain figures, there are certain numbers being allocated to individuals with respect to different skills and their dimensions, and we have given an overall score to the individual. So the simple things being Mr. XYZ being given a score of 58.929 out of 100. This is being collaborative score out of skills A, B, C, and D, which is being given. So this is the way from which we try to identify that what are the skill sets, and within those skill set what are the individual dimensions as a part of training content should be provided to any individual. So this is called, we can say, multi-skilling chart too, and within ISO multi-skilling chart being utilized by different companies. So the example with respect to when we look forward for competency mapping of individual or training need identification, we can come up with a skill matrix for the whole team. The team can be provided with a training, or we can look forward for the individual out of that particular team whom we need to provide them. There are certain things being given, that is comments by the leaders being available, actions to fill the gap. So comments by the leader, that is the senior of individual, is providing certain kind of feedback related to individual. Comments by the team members, the colleagues of individual, those are working there with him or her, providing some feedback for that individual. And actions to fill the gap, this is consisting what? This is consisting all those aspects. Actions to fill the gap will be consisting that all those things which need to be carried to provide an individual that skill set through which the individual will be, we can say, efficient enough for performing or executing any kind of work. Now, this is when we look forward for our training need to be identified. Once we are done with training need identification, we have identification of the dimensions in which an individual has to be provided certain training. So what we need to do, we need to schedule the training, and when we need to schedule the training, we must have certain information: when the training will be provided, whom the training will be provided, what type of training will be provided, and who will be providing those particular trainings. So all these things being converted into a kind of, we can say, calendar, that is called training calendar. So the schedule through which an individual related training can be identified, being executed, and being planned, that is called your training calendar. So that we'll see the formula, or we can say format for that later on in this process of training and training process. Now next, when we look forward for the things with respect to training need identification, as we have seen competency mapping being done, so there are different other methods to be used for getting the individual's training, or training in two dimensions, that is the individual level or the organizational level. So individual level, maybe the person is looking forward for certain enhancement in their area, and there maybe the organization is looking forward for efficiency, more efficiency by the individual in the work dimension. So these are the two dimensions under which we are going to get the feedback related to individuals' training needs, and in that we have got certain techniques to investigate these needs. So the first, which is being available, that is the direct observation. The senior of individual who is being working with the individual, who has got know-how about the individual, has got monitoring over his or her work. So when that person monitors, he also identifies the skill set which are already available with the individual, skill set which are required by the individual. So with that dimension, the observations being done when the individual is performing certain things. So whenever the person is performing, his behavior, his skill set, his knowledge dimension is being observed by the, we can say, the person supervising him. So the feedback from the supervisor, as we have seen the competency mapping, there are comments from the superiors. So similarly, there is certain observation from the superiors with respect to the individual's performance, and in that the individual's training need being provided. So one thing or one method to get the individual's need identifications, that would be the direct observation. The next which is being available, that is a questionnaire. Now as we simple see, this questionnaire means certain questions will be available which will be giving inputs, or whose answers will be giving input for the training need identified. So these questions being asked to whom? These questions being asked to the superior, these questions can be asked to the individual himself. So one process which we see further in our process of HR, or we can say understanding the HR under the concept of performance appraisal. There is one term is called self appraisal. तो सिमिलरली सेल्फ अप्रेजल ही हमारे पास क्या प्रोवाइड करता है, सेल्फ असेसमेंट ही प्रोवाइड करता है. सो ये जो क्वेश्चनर है, ये क्वेश्चनर में हमारे पास दो लोग अवेलेबल हो सकते हैं, either the colleague of that individual or we can say the person those are working with him. May include the colleague, may include the superior, and the person himself or herself providing the feedback that what type of requirements that person is looking forward for. So these are the questionnaire where certain questions being posed in front of the individual, they answers that, and we identify their needs. And that questionnaire may consist of certain dimension, the personal dimension as well as the organizational dimension. The other method which is available, that is the consultation with the key position person. As we have already seen this particular aspect, direct vision. So before we decide about individuals' training need, as we have seen some of the lacunas being identified through your competency mapping or skill chart or multi-skilling, we can have consultation from the key personnel. Now, key personnel for an individual may be the superior, maybe the subordinate, maybe the customers too. Now, all two dimensions we have discussed already. The third dimension, that is the customer. Like if one individual employee who has got direct interaction with the customer, or there is a platform through which the individual's performance is going to influence the customers directly, so their feedback can be taken with respect to their performances, and accordingly will be provided with the training in that dimension. The next which is available, that is your review of relevant literature. So the review of relevant literature provides that we go for study related to, we go for content related to the literature which is available for the training. So we have observations, we have questionnaire, we have the feedback from the other persons, and that is being collaboratively studied against the, we can say, relevant literature for the training. So what type of training set can be settled down through, what type of training program that can be studied, and that will be done as a review of literature. So review of literature actually look forward for what are the kind of practices being utilized, whatever kind of trainings have been given, what kind of skill sets are required by the individual in the past, and similarly all these things being clubbed together, and then the person's training need being finalized. So another few methods which are available in identification of needs. The one is going to be there will be an interaction between the superior, there will be interaction between the HR personnel and the employee, and this interaction provides information about what set of things being required by that person. That may be the behavior, that may be the skill set, that may be the knowledge aspect. So all the interaction with the HR person gives clarity about what set of information still is missing and what set of information is well goes with that individual. Another way, as we have seen, focus group interview and test for competency mapping too. So similarly, that particular thing can be utilized as a method of collecting training need identification. So in that, we come across with a topic, with a concern, may given like taking example. So company may have some project, the project problem being posed in front of those representative workers, and then they've been asked with the solutions and certain lacunas which they have existing at the present system. So this will be providing overall picture, this will be providing overall information about the need to be given or need to be nurtured. Next is test, and the last is work sample. Now test is something like there is a set of questionnaires, technical questions with respect to the job profile. The person being asked to perform these particular or test, perform on these particular examination, as standard results being available, which determines what is the level of competencies of individual, and on the basis of that we can identify what needs to be nurtured to the person. And the last, which is being work sample, that the person being given a small portion of the work which he or she has to perform, then the person being asked to perform all those things. Once that person is performing all the responsibility within the given task, that is being evaluated against the standard performance and the gap being analyzed. Once this gap is being revealed, we can identify these are the training needs for the individual. Now, moving ahead into this direction, once we are known with all the training needs, what we need to come up with as a second step of training process, that is deciding about the training objective. So when we look forward for this training objective is what actually that is what we have to attain through the training. And this need to overlap well, this need to coordinate with what are the needs of the training, or we can say what are the training need requirement of individual. So when we look forward for training objectives, with that regard, we identify that whatever gaps we have identified as a training need, these need to be converted into objectives. Now, all these gaps, all these aspects we have received through what? Task analysis, the work that person is performing, organization analysis, the standard that person has to adhere, and the personal analysis, what things are required by the individual. Thank you, everyone.